Epic the Musical. Need I say that? Hello everyone, Diamonds456 here, and if me waving around these two flags annoyed you, you can leave. For the rest of you that are still here, I want to talk about Epic the Musical. It has been consuming my life so badly. At this point, you have absolutely heard one of these songs by now, because even if you didn't know that it was from Epic the Musical, they've been all over TikTok, they've been all over different fandoms. I personally discovered Epic the Musical through Gravity Falls. Probably it's been most widely spread on TikTok because that's like where the musical was born. But today I just want to talk about the musical itself and the way that it presents its themes. Can you guys stop? I have two cats in here and they're making so much background noise. Isn't that right, buddy? Ugh. You're on camera, say hi. He doesn't want to. Okay. But today I want to focus on the musical itself and the themes that it presents. There are many ways to interpret the way that Odysseus' arc progresses throughout the musical, and this has been discussed widely in reaction videos and review videos alike. However, something I haven't seen discussed as much is the fact that the musical ends on a hopeful note, despite everything the main character does throughout the show's 2.5-hour runtime. And I don't mean this in the would you fall in love with me again is a pretty song and that's it, and it just gives Odysseus a good ending, though it absolutely does. What I mean by this is the fact that Odysseus has learned and internalized this idea of ruthlessness as mercy upon ourselves, an idea that Poseidon gives him in Act 1 that is then proven or disproven by every encounter that he has afterwards, driving him further and further down into this dark road that leads him to torturing a god and slaughtering 100 men like cattle. Though not these ones. And yet, despite all of this, the musical looks its audience in the eyes and tells them it doesn't have to be this way. And then decides to give Odysseus a happy ending. I find that fascinating. And this is something that, okay, so I'm rather new to the Epic the Musical space, so if someone's already made a video essay discussing this, I've not seen it. And I have been seeking out Epic videos in general just because I need to listen to other people yap about this thing or I'm going to lose my mind. You don't understand. I haven't really seen anyone going into like the deep themes and understanding of the musical, so that is what I'm going to attempt to do here. But this is my first video essay. I've written a couple others that never really got off the ground. I'm sorry to the Batimmers out there. I promise I'm still working on it. This is my first real dive into it, so please forgive me for any inconsistencies or anything like that. Like, you can probably hear that. I have my door shut for audio reasons. And I didn't want my cats to be locked out of the room when this is the room with the litter box, so there's just background noise now. I apologize for that. But anyway, yeah, let's just get into it, shall we? Epic as a story is the battle of two ideologies. Ruthlessness is mercy, and greet the world with open arms. Ruthlessness is mercy upon ourselves is an idea that basically declares that if you hurt, or more specifically kill others, they won't be able to hurt you back. You'll be able to defend yourself and thus also defend the people that you care about. This idea is demonstrated again and again through Poseidon, as well as other encounters that Odysseus has. Like, if he had just killed the Cyclops, then he wouldn't have been able to tell Poseidon about what Odysseus did to him, and then Poseidon would just have been left to grieve, and then that would have been the end of it. But because the Cyclops lived, he was able to tell Poseidon about what happened, and thus Poseidon chose to enact revenge, you know? So he goes to hurt Odysseus because Odysseus hurt his son. Chesty, you need something. On the other hand, we have open arms, or basically that you should not go in sword swinging and you should try to make peace with others, the way that Odysseus originally chose to do with the Cyclops. The ideology is shown through Polites, Odysseus' best friend. A lot of people tend to point to Polites' death at the hands of the Cyclops as proof that open arms simply cannot work, since that ideology is what got him killed in the first place, but I don't agree here, and neither does the musical, from what I can tell. Let's run through the scene real quick. We start off with Odie shooting one of the Cyclops' sheep. By the way, the big guy is named Polyphemus, and I will now be calling him interchangeably with the Cyclops. They're the same thing. He then goes on to ask why the Lotus Eaters don't just eat all the sheep for themselves when Polyphemus shows up demanding to know who our adventurers are. Odie introduces them as innocent travelers, in which the Cyclops simply states, "You killed my sheep." Odie goes on to say, "Oh, there's been a misunderstanding," and he tries to placate the beast, except he also has a backup plan in case this fails. He offers Polyphemus wine, in which he poisons using the lotus, which is something he got from an island. It was like a whole thing. Don't worry about it. The Cyclops doesn't notice, but chooses to attack anyway. Odysseus will later say this about the encounter.
"Hey, Cyclops! When we met, I led with peace, while you fed your inner beast."
This is just straight up not true. Okay, let me just show you this scene real quick, but focus on Polyphemus's perspective. You're going about your day, probably taking a nap, when suddenly you hear voices in your house. You head out to check in on that and find a bunch of people just broke into your house and killed your dog. Killed your dog. Your favorite dog, actually. They are trespassing, and so, at least in America, you have the right to just kill them. But they turn around and tell you, "Oh, there's been a misunderstanding. These guys who just broke into your house and killed your dog never came here to steal. They offer you wine and then ask to be left alone. You drink it, because why not? You know, it's pretty good. It tastes kind of fruity, but even then, they killed your dog! When you declare that, no, this doesn't actually make up for that, actually. They just attack you in your own home."
"When we met, I led with peace, while you fed your inner beast."
Whatever lets you sleep at night, Odysseus. Now, Odie here doesn't think he's lying. At least I don't think so. I think he genuinely believes what he's saying, since he gets so fired up about it later. But that's the thing, isn't it? Like, from Odie's perspective, he did lead with peace, because every other Greek, including himself not too long ago, absolutely would have led with violence here. This was his first time trying this new mercy thing, so it makes sense that he doesn't fully get it, but claiming he's the bestest at mercy ever while declaring he is the Cyclops' darkest moment is so hypocritical. Oh my god. Hey, Dims, this seems like a really long tangent. What are you getting at? I'm so glad you asked. This is the first real instance of Odysseus having to choose between ruthlessness and open arms. There's one other counter that you could count before this, and that would be the Winion encounter. But let's be real, if he actually attacked the little guys, they would all run away, and then Polites would get mad at him, which Odie didn't super want at the time, so... In this first choice, he decides to go for open arms, choosing to reason with Polyphemus rather than attacking him outright. And then later, he uses the fact that he had to blind the Cyclops to get him to move as proof that he was doing a mercy, rather than just trying to get the guy out of the way so they could leave. He wears it proudly. It's like a badge. He just owns it. But was this actually open arms? What would kindness have actually looked like in this scenario? Apologizing, probably. Bro just shot his dog, remember? Like, you don't kill someone's pet and then go, "Oh, whoopsie daisy, there's been a misunderstanding. Would you like some wine?" Like, that's a slap in the face, which Odysseus is really good at. No, the right thing to do here, at least from my perspective, would be to apologize, explain that you were directed here as a source of food, and acknowledge that this is extremely messed up, and ask how to make amends. That would be open arms. From there, it would be Polyphemus's move, either to take the offer or don't. Was he always destined to become Pancake? I don't know, I couldn't tell you. This begins a running theme. Odysseus fundamentally does not understand the ideology of open arms, seeing it instead as just opting for mercy than for actual understanding, which pushes him away from understanding and more towards the glory of saying like, well, I tried. You're the asshole here, not me. He's used to ruthlessness here at this point, seeing as he's a Greek general and king, and also just a Greek in general. So, if Odysseus had already chosen the path of ruthlessness, then what is the point of this journey? Like, wouldn't he scoff at the idea of open arms? Well, yeah, he does. That's his first initial reaction to it. Like, Polites is telling him to try relaxing and befriending enemies through understanding, and Odysseus scoffs and points out that these creatures, they're eating locusts, which is basically a type of drug.
My friend, I wish that I could say that I agree, but look at the way this fruit is glowing and filled with glowing seeds. It's a lotus, it controls your mind and never lets you free.
Or mind control. This is like the ancient Greek equivalent to what people think are in vaccines. So Polites then turns around and asks the very friendly lotus eaters for directions to different food, seeing as there's been a misunderstanding. And then they direct them to the cave, to which neither of them see the immediate red flags. So Odysseus cautiously decides to give this understanding thing a try. Now, did the lotus eaters know about the Cyclops? Well, yeah, actually, if they knew about the sheep, then they more than likely knew about who watched over them. Did they knowingly send the entire crew to their deaths? Probably not. Like, they seem overall very helpful, unless the lotus makes them evil. But more than likely they just weren't thinking about that, or they thought that Odie and Polites could handle it. Like maybe the hypothetical here is that they would walk up to the Cyclops and be like, hey, we're hungry, do you got any spare sheep? And the Cyclops would be like, yeah, bruh, I got you here. Take like 5, you know? They on something, they were smoking weed, okay? They were like smoking weed and doing crack at the same time. They were not thinking straight. Either way, from Polites' perspective, the Lotus Eaters appear to be being genuinely helpful in whatever skewed way that they can. So obviously they're eating the locust no problem, so clearly there must have been an assumption that humans can too. And when Polites tells them that this isn't the case, they don't double down, and instead they redirect them to another source of food. This is coming to an understanding, something Polites proves is the way to go. But to Odysseus, he just sees Polites being nice, and then he gets what he wants. So that must be what open arms is. And so, you know, he agrees to try it out. Looks simple enough. Just be nice, and you'll get what you want. Sounds good. Then we get to the Polyphemus mess, where Odysseus does not actually understand Polyphemus's perspective. He just tries to nice his way out of there. So the thing is, nice is different than good, and this is not something anyone really understands, not even Poseidon. You are far too nice. Mercy has a price. Like, bro, that's just not true. Odysseus was only using niceness as a tool to escape. If he were good, that would be a different thing. And this is where Odysseus really starts to trip up. He doesn't attempt to understand the people around him, and he simply gets information and then reacts to it. His definition of understanding only extends to his tactics, not any sense of genuine connection. The only other time that open arms works for Odysseus is during the Circe saga, where he wasn't even trying that. Rather, men got turned into pigs. And he decides to go confront the witch who did this and then attempt to free them. Now, we'll touch on why this is a significant choice from Odysseus here in a moment, but for now, let's just keep going. He then gets some help from Hermes, who tells him that he has to beat Circe. Not reason with her, beat her. And Odysseus doesn't question this at all. He starts his approach to Circe, feigning ignorance, and then once she's provoked, they fight, and he wins, drawing his sword to her neck. She goes on to explain that she's doing this because she is acting on the ruthlessness ideology. Like the last time the strangers came to her palace, they faced a heavy loss. While this lyric is vague, it is still very easy to see why she doesn't trust strangers anymore, and opted to be rid of them before they had a chance to hurt her or her nymphs. And yes, I do know what that lyric means. It's not important to this discussion. Now, Odysseus does not have a moment to actually connect with her about this, so instead she goes for a different tactic, trying to seduce him, so that way she could stab him. So she then tells him that she'll release his men if he does this with her.
Want to save your men from the fire? Show me that you're willing to burn.
And Odysseus cannot bring himself to cheat on Penelope, even for what he believes is the greater good, which is foreshadowing for later. Instead talks about how much he loves and genuinely respects his wife. And this is what changes Circe's mind. Understanding. Now she knows that Odysseus is not like the men who came before, who hurt her nymphs, and instead he's genuinely just trying to get his guys in bounds. And this is what causes her to help him. Once again, we see that Open Arms is not about simply being nice, but rather about reaching and understanding. This time, it was Circe coming to an understanding about Odysseus, and he does not share this understanding.
I'll release your men and I'll get you to the underworld instead.
Wait, you're helping us?
There are many ways of persuasion. There are many modes of control. Maybe showing one act of kindness leads to kinder souls down the road.
She straight up just tells him that because he is choosing not to hurt her nymphs, and instead he's just looking to protect his own men, and she is choosing to have faith in him and help him on his journey. She only acted in the way that she did at first because she wasn't willing to take the risk. Ruthlessness, in this case action before violence, is mercy upon ourselves, which would be Circe and her daughters. By taking the men out first, she has now eliminated a potential threat, but has also hurt innocent men in the process. So by going back on this decision, she is choosing Open Arms. And no blood is shed. The issue here is that Odysseus did not get this lesson. Circe did, but it went completely over his head. He just knows that Circe changed her mind because he rambled about his wife for a moment, and as far as he knows, he was nice to her, and she changed her mind accordingly. So he's really good at this Open Arms things, right? Before we go any further, I want to ask again, why is Odysseus choosing to attempt Open Arms in the first place? He's a Greek general and king. He's killed people before, and I'm gonna say it, so is Polites. So why do either of these two men care? I'm gonna start with Polites. From what we can tell from what he sings in the song Open Arms, he's been pondering this for a while.
I know that you're tired of the war and bloodshed. Tell me, is this how we're supposed to live?
He's seen war. He understands the brutality of it. And he's decided that maybe this isn't a good idea. People are getting killed, lives are being destroyed, and all because of what is essentially a blood feud. If they set aside their differences, could the war in Troy have been avoided? Maybe, maybe not. We'll never know for certain. But he's decided that enough is enough and that there has to be a better solution to this. And to Odysseus, he's had no trouble fighting for his entire life. It's what Athena trained him to do. And it's something that he's good at and takes pride in. The very first thing we see him do in this musical is give orders to his men quickly and efficiently, giving them the perfect strategy to go and sack Troy for all of its worth and bring that victory home. He gives the order to attack with ferocity, and he only stops once he has the vision from Zeus. And even then, listen to how he responds here.
Can only be dealt with right here and now.
Tell me how, say no more. I know that I'm ready.
He's completely down to kill a kid. And as Zeus does tell him that this kid is defenseless and is somebody's son, and Odie over here is just like, oh nice, easy to deal with, cool. It is not until he sees that it is a literal baby that he pauses. Can he kill a child? Well, yes. But that doesn't mean it sits too well on his conscience, especially since he made the connection from Astyanax to Telemachus, who he left back home. The genuine connection, the bond. There it is. Look, we found open arms again, kind of. And then from there we see him trying to push that guilt down over and over and over again. Zeus didn't really make him do anything, though he is trying to push his own narrative. You know, Mr. The gods will tell this kid the truth once he's grown up and then you'll all be sorry. Fuck you, man. Zeus didn't push Odysseus physically closer to the ledge or anything. He just gave him the facts and then left. Odysseus is the one who ultimately made the choice, and that decision haunts him. This is why I think that Open Arms coming so close after Just a Man is so important. Polites is not only offering Odysseus a way to redirect his grief and guilt into doing something good in the world, but it's also showing that there was another way. Now, we can't know for sure since Astyanax is dead, rest in peace, F in the chat, but theoretically, Odie could have taken Astyanax and raised him as his own. But without withholding the truth from him. Raise this child with the idea of understanding, and maybe he wouldn't have grown up to be a killer. There's no way to see now. Like to once again state that Odysseus fundamentally does not understand the Open Arms ideology, so this probably wouldn't have worked anyway. Like I said before, he thinks that's just being nice. Like that's how Odysseus interprets it, and that is not what that means. But this would go on to haunt Odysseus for the rest of his journey. And it is the catalyst for every major decision that he makes moving forward. He has one goal: make it back alive. At first he tries to save as many people as he can, but once that becomes impossible, he prioritizes himself and his own family, because this journey cannot have been for nothing. Like, he can't have lost 558 men for nothing. He can't have faced the Cyclops for nothing. He can't have murdered an infant for nothing. It has to be worth it. He has to go home. This is him rationalizing and justifying his own actions, which he does more and more as the story progresses. He has now become the monster. We see this especially in the Thunder Saga. Him deciding to become the monster at the end of the Underworld Saga has resulted in him adopting a whatever it takes mentality. And this is seen best in 4 places. Different Beast, Scylla, Thunderbringer, and a mystery one that we will get back to later. If you've seen the musical, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So for Different Beast, Odie is successfully able to trick Siren into giving him information to be able to avoid Poseidon? Someone make fan art of that. He's able to avoid Poseidon and is able to get back home. Or at least is given directions to get back home. And then he and his crew murder the rest of the Sirens as an act of revenge for an act that has not occurred yet. They pulled a Circe and, just, we know you're dangerous, we know you're going to hurt us, we're not going to give you a second chance, just die. Then in Scylla, Odysseus ducks his head to the monster and allows her to take 6 of his men in exchange for safe passage for the rest of them. Then in Thunderbringer, he chooses himself over his crew, and the rest of them are destroyed. He is now alone. He washes up on Calypso's island, and from there he not only is forced to realize that he's trapped in a place where he cannot leave from, meaning his choice was ultimately meaningless, and he's going to be suffering the consequences of said choice for the next several years, but also he now has time to reflect on them. A lot of time. Too much time. Honestly, Calypso being there is only making his mental state worse. Since she does not listen to him ever, I doubt that they have ever had a productive conversation, since she seems to think that she just knows better than him, but we'll touch more on that later. It is only after 7 years, this is 7 in sign language, 7 years that he is actually able to leave. And at first, he's still depressed. He's still focusing on his failures and about how all of this death was for nothing if he can't do it. He's focusing on the death itself. And that's all he's been doing for the past 7 years. And then Hermes shows up to hype him up a bit, and then he's able to get his groove back. Yay. I have seen some people confused as to why Hermes needs to tell him to have a mindset change. And isn't that what he's already been doing? That's not true. At first he was guilty and tentative. He was trying to avoid any more needless deaths. And when that failed, he accepted that death is just going to be happening and he has to be more willing to make that call. Which is when he got his entire crew killed by Zeus, and then he got stranded on Calypso's island. And now he is going in with the mindset of, I'm alone and I can only rely on myself. And I am going to get home no matter what. Then the windbag comes in, which it's implied Hermes and Aeolus got for him by bagging up Poseidon's storm and then going around Ithaca or something, and then giving that to him as a test. But now there's no Judases nearby to open it while he's asleep, so this should be a piece of cake, right? We got this in the bag. Holy shit, is that where that phrase comes from? No, that can't be it, right? Is it? This is why opening the bag is such a big deal. Odysseus is going to do anything to get home. And he continues to spiral further and further down as the one thing that he can do for his own survival also seals his fate. By opening the bag, he's alive, so now he has a chance to go home, but also doesn't, since the storm prevents him from going any further. Rock meet hard place. Except, well...
I'd love an explanation of what powers the other gods have in Epic, such as Ares' seeming ability to break Athena's quick thought. Absolutely! Poseidon! 3 words. Long-range fighter. And so the thing with Poseidon is that most opponents would not be able to reach him because he's so well protected with all of his long-range attacks that involve the ocean. The trade-off would be that in close-range combat, he's still strong, but it's not his strength compared to using his long-range ocean attacks. So the best way to beat him would have to be getting him close. So someone like Hermes would be able to get the jump on him.
Shish kebab. Finally, some good fucking food. This is the final time we see Odysseus act on the no matter what mentality that he adopted back in Monster. He is now attacked a god to get home, and it worked. This is why Poseidon's final encounter feels so grand. Like, I see this as like the big climax of the musical. Odysseus has completed his arc. Wrong way for here. We're here now. And he has become a terror to get home. He is a monster. This is so heavy symbolism. I'm so sorry. Now, something interesting about this phrasing here, monsters seem to be creatures who are threats to humans, but ultimately are just living their lives. Like, take Polyphemus, for example. He only attacked because Odysseus killed his dog. I keep saying that instead of sheep because it really drives home what Odysseus did to this guy. Most of us are not that connected to our sheep, okay? Okay. Circe acted upon an it's us or them mentality that she then lifted when she deemed Odysseus safe, and the sirens were just hungry, and so was Scylla. You do weird things when you haven't eaten food. You can go look at some commercials about that, so I've heard. They're all just doing what it takes to survive, and so does Odysseus. Survive, no matter what. Get home, no matter what. So it's something to be said when something is a threat to humans that isn't just doing it to survive. In this context, I think the suitors are actual demons, which is why watching Odysseus kill them all is so satisfying. Like, we've seen what a monster is. These guys are far beyond that. Like, this isn't even the ruthlessness is mercy mentality because, like, literally no one has, like, hurt them at all. This part isn't scripted, can you tell? But, like ruthlessness is mercy is more about, like, protecting yourself. These guys aren't doing any fucking protecting. They're doing quite the opposite of that, I believe, so that's cool. So by embracing ruthlessness, this idea of doing whatever it takes to live, like a more violent form of determination, if you know, you know, Odysseus is able to get home and finally actually meet his son, who he embraces almost immediately. We have seen this man at his worst, and now it is time to see him at his best. Let's go. Odysseus, ironically enough, embodies the open arms ideology in his approach to Telemachus. He listens to him, he hears him out, he responds in kind, validating all of his son's experiences while telling him that he'll never have to go through them alone again. And it's beautiful, and I cried, god damn it. But the reason that this is so significant is because once again, Odie doesn't even realize. Athena appears just a moment later with her opposite arc to it. They did this. They made a fish. Athena appears a moment later, and I know I need to go get water. Hold on. This isn't product placement, by the way, in case you can somehow read the label. I'm just thirsty as fuck. But Athena appears a moment later, and with her opposite arc to Odysseus, telling him how she regrets the way that their friendship ended, and proposes the open arms idea to him again. And Odysseus tells her that it's not possible for him anymore, even though we just saw that it clearly can be. Yeah, it's different because he and Telemachus are related, and he's already bonded to this kid, technically. But imagine if he had a similar scene with Astyanax, is all I'm saying. Like, this could have gone completely differently. And we see his open arms approach again when he finally reunites with Penelope. He tells her that he's changed and explains himself in full to her. Basically declares that he's not worthy of her affections anymore. And she responds with basically, shut the fuck up. Like, she embraces him with open arms right back, and you know this family is going to be okay. This is probably the healthiest family in all of ancient Greece. Oh my god. And it has Odysseus in it. That's how bad it was. But again, Odie doesn't connect the dots that this is what he's doing. Like, he wasn't nice to her, but he was still meeting her halfway. And, you know, coming to an understanding. That's what open arms is all about. If Odysseus was truly as ruthless as he claims to be, then this wouldn't have happened. He is at heart a compassionate and fiercely loyal person. He was ruthless until he didn't need to be anymore, and then immediately defaulted into a much more caring father and lover. You know, understanding open arms ultimately is what reunited him with his family. You could even read into that as the open arms mentality coming out on top, hand in hand with ruthlessness. Now, I could be reading this completely differently to how Jorge intended it. After all, he has said repeatedly that all the changes he made to the Odyssey were to further this theme of ruthlessness. And I think he did a fantastic job with that. But it is interesting to me that if ruthlessness truly was the answer, then he would have just taken Penelope back, whether she wanted it or not. Like, he wouldn't have heard Telemachus out, and he would have just been possessive, treating them both like prizes he won that he deserves. But, you know, he doesn't. In fact, he specifically doesn't do that. So, you know, that feels intentional. And if it is, congrats. Jorge, I fucking love your writing. And, you know, if it's not, I still love your writing anyway. We can just wave at each other as we pass each other in the hallway, you know? But Dims, I hear you saying, if open arms really is the mentality that wins out at the end of the day, then how do you explain Zeus telling Odysseus that he was going to make sure that Astyanax becomes a killer no matter what unless Odie kills him? He was pretty backed into a corner there. And you're right. He was. But the gods are not all-knowing. And that is pivotal to the other major arc that we get in this show. I am so fucking mentally ill about Epic, can you tell? So, like I said, the gods aren't all knowledgeable. If they were, then Athena wouldn't have had an arc. So, she had to learn through losing Odysseus that the open arms ideology is not only achievable, but also the gateway to a better life. If you just kill everyone out of fear of retaliation, then their loved ones are going to retaliate, so you either kill literally everyone you meet, or you lay down your swords and you try something else. But that goes against everything that Athena has previously stood for, which is why it takes her 10 years to reflect on all of that, and why she decides to train Telemachus at all. She's not telling Telemachus to put down his weapon during their first encounter, but she is telling him to kick Antonius's ass, because, as I've said before, he is worse than a monster, and therefore he's the exception to the open arms rule. He's horrible, and could choose to stop being horrible at any time, and he isn't. So we can kick his ass and not feel bad about it. But then we get the song We'll Be Fine, in which she expresses her regrets for both how she treated and directed Odysseus, and tells Telemachus that she wants to try and make up for it with someone else, guiding them with this new, better ideology.
And so I thought maybe if I'd made a different call, if I hadn't missed it all, maybe he'd be fine. Maybe if I help another soul, if I helped you reach your goal, life could be that bright. I could sleep at night.
Telemachus responds with understanding, telling her that he values her and that he thinks that they could make a great team.
My time with you has been splendid. I've never felt strong before. You're my friend, I couldn't ask for more. Maybe if life wasn't spent as planned, maybe it's time that you lend a hand. Maybe to fall is to learn one way. I know we'll be fine. I know it's light, you'll find.
And in a beautiful parallel to Warrior of the Mind, Telemachus holds up his hand for a high five, and instead of just turning away, since, she's above genuine connection with other people, she accepts, wordlessly bringing herself more down to Telemachus's level and forming a bond. And understanding. They greet each other with open arms.
You're a good kid.
Thanks.
If Athena truly was all-knowing from the start, then she would have already known how effective this method is. But she didn't. She had to learn that on her own by making mistakes. Something, she's human, something, you get it. And if Athena had to learn this, so does everyone else. Let's talk about Pancake again for a second, shall we? Polites is a veteran. He's been fighting in this war alongside Odysseus for 10 years, and we hear zero protests from him during the siege of Troy, implying that he was actively partaking in the sacking. And as a note, we don't hear him say anything during the Cyclops saga either. This means that his open arms mentality is something he's been ruminating on, and he's observed on his own in the midst of battle, and this cannot be the right way. If war only results in bloodshed, which results in anger, which results in war, which results in bloodshed, then it will never end. And it's a pretty mature conclusion for this Greek hero to come to. Like, no one else has this mentality. It's only Polites, meaning he probably was just like the rest until very recently. Athena herself is not fighting in the war. She's been aiding people. We hear a clock ticking to indicate her presence right from the word go, but she's not physically present, because she's not standing side by side with humans. She's not in the thick of it, and probably has been assuming that this is just how it is, and you need to adapt accordingly. So when Polites comes in with this new, hey, maybe fighting is wrong actually, mentality, she's confused and very dismissive of the idea. Like, yeah, sure, buddy. Tell me how good open arms is when it gets you killed. And then it does get him killed. Like, he was ahead of his time, damn it. Which is why she sings this so confidently in My Goodbye.
You've grown soft, your dead friends can attest.
Hey,
Put your emotions aside.
She probably thinks that Polites would agree with her now that he got his dumbass killed. But then in the underworld, we hear him again.
this life is amazing when you greet it with open arms. Whatever we face, can light up the world. Here's how to start. Greet the world with open arms. Greet the world with open arms.
Now, Jorge has said that everyone here is singing with the mentality they had when they died, which means that no, he did die thinking that open arms is effective, and he does not agree with Athena in that ruthlessness is the way to go. And even then, if you really want to, if you want to completely dismiss everything that Jorge has said, that's still even reflected in the musical itself, because, he's dead and he's still singing that. No matter what happened when he died or what the rules of this universe are, he still believes it, Athena starts her arc agreeing with Zeus and Poseidon and Circe and Scylla and Polyphemus, all of the rest of them, in that ruthlessness is mercy upon ourselves, and that finishing your opponent and hitting them first is the best possible way to ensure the safety and well-being of the people that you care about. But once she has had time to reflect and really realize her own ideology pushed away one of her closest friends, and then he got his dumbass crew all killed without her guidance, she comes around to the idea of being the change that she wants to see in the world. She's ready to bring her boy back into the game, which means it is time to give this whole understanding thing a try. Which leads us to Love in Paradise. Love in Paradise is all about Athena learning about what Odysseus has been up to since she left, seeing him attempt ruthlessness and how that stabbed him in the dick right back, and how he washed up on Calypso's island. She declares that, he needs help, because holy shit, he needs help. And then saunters up to Zeus, hey, can you let Odysseus go? And in response, Zeus tells her to convince 5 other gods, and himself, that this is something that the Greek deserves. We then see her trying to talk to each one of them one-on-one, basically hearing them out and playing Ace Attorney with them. I do want to take a second to highlight another epic video by Your Boy Needs a Hobby, in which case, he breaks down each argument and what Athena should have said, and it's really good, and it goes way more in depth than I'm going to, and also this person is very funny. You should go check their channel out. This all culminates with her telling Hera that Odysseus never cheated on his wife, which is very funny considering Zeus, and he reacts about how you'd expect.
I played your game and won. Release him.
You dare to defy me, to make me feel shame. No one beats me. No one wins my game.
He blasts Athena with a thunderbolt, and she basically uses the power of her bonds with Odysseus and Telemachus to get back up and keep pushing forward until she's right up in front of Zeus again and begs him for their freedom.
Let him go, please, let him go.
She doesn't fight him. She just lays her heart bare for him to see, and that this is a matter of how much she cares for her friend and how much she knows Telemachus needs to meet his father. And this is what gets through to Zeus. Open arms worked. Let's pause here and figure out why. Zeus, for this entire musical, has been very my way or the highway. The very first thing that we even see the guy do is that he goes up to Odysseus and tells him that he has to kill a literal baby, because if he doesn't, this child will grow up to be a ruthless killer and slaughter Odie's entire family. And when Odie says that he could just raise the kid as his own and keep him in the dark about his past, instead of Zeus telling Odie that the kid is smart and would have learned eventually, he instead says,
Make sure his past is never gone.
Why? No, literally why? What the fuck is your problem? Someone had a vision, and Zeus himself went to tell Odysseus and essentially was like, okay, it's either this or that, A or B, red or green, no in between. Jorge, write this down. He doesn't give the people he's talking to a real choice, because the choice that Odysseus immediately made was to raise the kid as his own, to which Zeus shot him down and was like, nope. Which gods? Was it just you? I bet it was just him. Very much not taking no for an answer, not willing to hear others out. He's the king. Just sit down and shut up. We see this again in Thunderbringer. Zeus, by order of Helios, shows up to be like, okay, criminals, here's how it's gonna go. A or B, blue or orange, you or your crew. No cuts, no butts, no coconuts, just pick one. And while yes, there is the added layer that Helios threatened to remove the sun forever if justice was not served for the death of his friend, Zeus still had the choice to allow for a nuanced discussion and didn't even think to do that, because why would he? He does the same thing in the beginning. He gives Odysseus a terrible non-choice and then forces the guy to live with that guilt forever. Odysseus chooses himself over his crew, and then Zeus follows through and kills them all. But Zeus doesn't reward his choice by sending him home. All Zeus was there to do was to kill someone from Helios and make Odie choose, since Zeus could tell that Odie was bullshitting when he said that he's a new monster and he just wants to protect his own. Zeus knows who Odysseus is, and he's just a man who's trying to go home. Can't really do that if he's dead. There was never a choice here, and Zeus knows it. But this doesn't mean it was the right choice. Neither group was going to be rewarded for Odysseus' choice either way. They were paying for a crime. It was only fair that Odie would end up on Calypso's island. At least from Zeus's fucked up point of view. This is why he's so firmly rooted in not letting him go. In Zeus's eyes, Odysseus is a selfish, terrible man and always has been. He deserves this fate. That's what makes God Game so fun, because Athena was convincing the others as well as Zeus to let Odie go, and even though Zeus heard out her arguments, the thing that got through to him was the fact that Athena, none of that really mattered in the first place. Athena just wants to be able to get her friend and let him go home and meet his fucking son, and Telemachus needs to meet his father, and she wears her heart on her sleeve and pretty much sacrifices herself for both. And a choice like that is not one that Zeus would have ever seen coming. See, Zeus is operating on a similar mentality to Ruthlessness, in that human folly will always be their downfall. We see it throughout Greek history, and especially in this musical, where he prides himself on being the one who can see into a mortal soul and knows exactly what makes them tick.
Pride is a damsel in distress, hiding away where only I can undress her. Trial she cannot to confess. In the end, it's all the same once I apply all the pressure.
Only he can crack into a person and see them for what they are. It's his special talent. So when Athena disregards all of that stuff anyway and essentially takes a bullet for the guy, yeah, he's moved. Maybe not because Odie is a great guy, but because his daughter cares so much. And even if he doesn't understand why she wants him free, he does love his daughter enough to agree to let him free for her sake. I will say that I do like that we don't explicitly see why Zeus decides to free Odie. Like, obviously it's because Athena sacrificed herself, or something about that moved Zeus, but we don't see what exactly about it moved him. It's pure speculation, and I adore that choice, thank you. The gods are not all-knowing. Again, if they were, Zeus would have remained a static character. All of the gods would have. But they didn't. Once again, we see that open arms is the way to go. If Athena had just battled it out with Zeus, she probably would have either died or gotten very injured. But because she chose to make Zeus see that this isn't about practicalities, it's not about strategy or anything like that, it's purely because she wanted Odysseus to have a happy ending, it was able to melt the ice enough for him to agree. From there, she's able to train Telemachus a bit now that we're waiting for Odie to get home. And now her trial run of open arms has worked, she starts employing that idea in her teachings. And we really see it in action with Telemachus when he shows back up in the song Odysseus. Side note, this is my favorite song in the entire musical, and I can't really explain why, it's just really cool. Telemachus, from what I can understand, was seemingly waiting to ambush people by the room where the weapons were all locked, which is a smart way to take them out. Like, he's striking out of the bushes like a viper, that's kick-ass. But at the same time, he also turns around and gives these suitors a chance to stand down, while making it clear that he will attack them if they don't. This is like Athena's trial of open arms, but like with mortals this time, seeing if this truly is a viable strategy. And while it doesn't work here, Athena notices something.
Now that we have armed ourselves, let's make the bastard rot.
Behind you! Throw down those weapons, and I ensure you'll be spared.
After seeing what the king will do to us, we wouldn't dare.
You hear that piano after the suitor speaks? That's Athena's presence. And there's one of those trills after the suitor responds to Telemachus each time. And it's essentially a way of letting the audience know that a quick thought is happening, and that she's telling Telemachus the best way to proceed. Essentially, Athena is present and listening in on this conversation, guiding Telemachus on what to say next. And what happens during this whole thing is very interesting. For the first bit, Telemachus tells them all to throw down their weapons and he'll ensure their survival. And in response, they're like, hell no. Like, the king will kill us either way. That's stupid. So Athena sees this, and in trying to keep up open arms, tells Telemachus to say this.
I don't want to hurt you, but trust me, I've come prepared.
Your very presence is doomed the king, young prince. We don't fight fair.
Stop!
We don't fight fair. That's the moment that Athena and Telemachus both know that open arms will not work, and instead get ready to fight. See, the thing that makes open arms so difficult is that both sides have to agree to it. If one of them wants to fight, then there's not really much that you can do about that, other than, like, you know, back down and run away. Understanding is a two-way street, which means that, you know, in cutthroat ancient Greece, it's no wonder that the ideology was pretty laughed at in general. To decide to not fight was essentially suicide, which is why we gotta take baby steps. Again, Telemachus made it very clear that he would attack if they did not stand down. He's just giving them a chance to make that choice, and they rejected it. Open arms failed, time for plan B. And that's the thing that Athena really notices here. And we can tell because of the song, I Can't Help But Wonder. For context, Odysseus and Telemachus have just slaughtered all of the suitors. The palace is covered in blood and gore, and the sun is rising on a new day. Telemachus finally gets to meet his father, and they bond immediately. After all that is done, Odysseus tells Telemachus to go tell Penelope that he's come home, and then he has a moment alone with Athena. And it's a cute parallel to their first meeting. I really like it. But the thing that I want to focus on is this.
I can't help but wonder what this world could be if we all held each other with a bit more empathy. I can't help but feel like I led you astray. What if there's a world where we don't have to live this way?
She says this unprompted. Like, she just assisted in killing all of these men, and she still emerges with the open arms mentality. Why? Because she's grown to see this cycle for what it truly is. If I hurt you, you'll hurt me back, and then I'll hurt you, and it goes and goes and goes until one of us is dead. But then, someone else has just lost someone really important to them, so they'll seek revenge, and they'll hurt you, and you'll hurt them back, and then they'll hurt you, and you'll hurt them back, and it goes and goes and goes until one of you is dead. Rinse and repeat. Clearly, if we want to create actual peace and allow people like Telemachus to live full lives without fear, something's gotta change. But you can't just force someone to lay down their weapons. Greek gods were all about free will and humans suffering the consequences of their own actions. Makes sense. But to inflict this lesson upon the world as a whole, it's gonna take baby steps. And the very first step is a high five. This high five is extremely important. We see it twice, once with Odysseus when he was really young, and again with Telemachus years later. The first time, Odysseus declares that they're going to be friends, and then Athena turns him down, much to his disappointment.
If you're looking for a mentor, I'll make sure your time's well spent.
Sounds like a plan, goddess and man, best of some friends.
We'll see where it ends.
Okay.
You know, she's a goddess. She's not going to stoop down to his level. She's above him. She's closing herself off to a potential connection by doing that. Which is why when she accepts Telemachus' high five, it's such a big deal.
You're a good kid.
Thanks.
Listen to how much more tender she is with him than she ever was with Odysseus. I love these two's friendship, I'm sorry. She's essentially saying we're the same and inviting him into her inner circle. Connection and understanding. True open arms right there. That's why it's so heartbreaking when we hear Odysseus' response to Athena's proposition.
If that world exists, it's far away from here. It's one I'll have to miss, for it's far beyond my years.
He's given up on treating others with kindness. In becoming the monster, he's closed himself off to the benefit of the doubt, and closed off his entire inner circle so that only his family is allowed inside. There's a chance that he might be able to heal from this experience eventually, but that's going to take years and wisdom that he currently does not have, and realistically may never have. He's a man shaped from horrible, horrible experience, and if he just wants to protect his own, then honestly, I support him on that one. Let the man rest. The interesting thing, at least to me, is what he says next.
You might live forever, so you can make it be.
He's not saying that to Athena. I mean, he is. He's saying that to us. This is our call to action. We just spent the past 2 hours watching a man go from a ruthless warrior to a guilt-ridden mess to a monster and then a loving father figure who is just tired and just wants to sleep for the next 200 years. He basically had to fight tooth and nail to get to where he is, and he's pretty much only known violence for his entire life. And even he looks into the camera and says, "Yeah, you're probably right, but I'm not the person who can fix this." Because he understands that this is bigger than him. It's simultaneously him admitting that he's only human, as well as saying that even if he was a god, he wouldn't be able to set the record straight. But someone has to. Who's it gonna be? This fictionalized version of Athena who only exists in this musical? Or you, the viewer, who has the power to commit actual real change? The fact that this musical was made in the time period it was is not lost on me. Jorge started working on it in the early 2020s, spending 2 to 3 years crafting it into what it is now, and then spending about 2 years releasing it saga by saga. I need not remind you that 2020 fucking sucked. Like, even pandemic aside, the world was just shit. And it's really only gotten worse since then. We're just all not stuck inside now. At least, not forcibly. So, dear viewer, I'd like to ask you a question. If kindness is truly the way, why didn't it get Odysseus home? I'm gonna give you a minute to think about that while I talk, don't worry. Just keep rotating that for me, will you? Thanks. There's one more part of this musical that plays into these themes that I've yet to mention, and that is the hopeful aspect of it. Throughout the musical, starting textually from the song Survive, there's this reoccurring idea of just one more life to take, just one more obstacle. The storm's our final fight. He won't take more suffering from you, stuff like that. This reflection of holding out hope and pushing through doubts haunts the human cast of characters, weighing heavily on them, as we can see with Eurylochus several times in this musical whenever he speaks on the crew's behalf. He's doubtful and tired, and he just wants to rest, and he doesn't have very many just one mores left in him.
How much longer till your luck runs out? How much longer till the show goes south?
We have to go save them.
No, we don't. Think about the men we have left before they're none. Let's just cut our losses, you and I, and let's run. We are a different beast now. We are the ones who feast now. No more of us deceased, 'cause we won't take more suffering from you.
Him opening the windbag makes more sense under this context, as does his mutiny and subsequent killing of the cow.
Odie, we're never gonna get to make it home. You know it's true.
You don't know that's true.
I'm starving, my friend. I'm tired, my friend.
But we're so close to home, this can't be where it ends.
His fear after this, his like, oh shit, I fucked up moment, doesn't come from ignorance. Odie told him who these cows were, and he still chose to piss off Helios on purpose. You know, he's not stupid. The entire scene has this undertone of group suicide to it, as the entire crew gives up and just wants a bite to eat, not thinking about the consequences since they can't go home anyway. His horror-filled
Captain?
isn't because he's realizing he fucked up. It's him realizing that there's no going back and he really, really fucked up. His survival instincts kicked in late. Oops. Point being, Eurylochus and the rest of the crew had collectively given up hope of ever returning home, and were thus swallowed by the ocean. The only one who held out hope survived. And Odie recognized this on some level. These guys just straight up told him that they don't care about getting home anymore. It would be stupid to pick them and spare himself in that context. He'd just die and then no one gets home. Again, this has to be worth it. So we can't have that. But so long as Odie holds out hope, he was able to keep pushing forward. He never once gave up, and that persistence allowed him to go home, even when it looked like he never would. That said, I've been dodging him this entire video. We need to address the elephant in the room. The antithesis to my entire argument about open arms being proven to be the right ideology. We need to talk about Poseidon. When Odie and friends get away from him the first time, Poseidon starts chasing them around the ocean, surrounding Ithaca with massive storms, preventing anyone from going in or out, and, basically locking it off from the rest of the world. Employing ruthlessness, he mercilessly pursued Odie, blocking him from going in certain ways while they were on the run. There was no being kind to Poseidon. It wasn't gonna work. That shit was on site. And of course, this all culminates in the showdown that Odysseus has with Poseidon right on the outskirts of Ithaca. Odie opens the bag, unleashes the storm, and while this saves himself from drowning, yes, he also ensures that he will never go home.
You released my storm when you opened that bag. Blocked your one-way home. Now you'll never get back.
Now, Odie could have given up here, but he didn't. He took this one step further than even the most ferocious Greek general at the time would have, grabbed Ruthlessness by the handle and shoved it back into Poseidon's face. Literally.
You're going to call off that storm.
Or what? You can't kill me.
Exactly.
Wait. Ah! How does it feel to be helpless? You said the world was dark. Didn't you say that ruthlessness is mercy upon our... All right. Please.
Ruthlessness allowed him to bypass Poseidon, pushing this mentality to its limit and getting back to his palace. And then he employed it even further when he slaughtered all of the suitors. So clearly it's actually ruthlessness that's the way to go here, right? Ruthlessness won, actually. No. Yes, ruthlessness is what got him home, but as we've explored, there were other avenues that Odie could have taken to get there, ones with better solutions for all parties. Ruthlessness is not the only way, as we see with the Lotus Eaters, Circe, Athena, Zeus, Telemachus, and Penelope, that open arms is the best way to establish a genuine connection and bond with somebody. As stated before, open arms is a two-way street. Ruthlessness is not. So if one avenue is closed, you might have to resort to violence. Epic the Musical, at least to my understanding, is not saying that one ideology is better than the other. If that were true, things would have happened a lot differently. Rather, I believe it's saying that both are useful, you just have to know when to use them. Ruthlessness is a tool. Let's go back to that question. If kindness is the way, then why didn't it get Odysseus home? Because others were not kind to him either. Poseidon was never going to lower his trident. Scylla was going to eat no matter what. Zeus could not be reasoned with until his daughter literally almost died for Odysseus, and Polyphemus was more than likely going to kill a man to avenge his sheep no matter how much wine they gave him. So, in those scenarios, Odysseus did what he needed to in order to survive. Ruthlessness for ruthlessness' sake continues the cycle of violence. But ruthlessness applied in tandem with open arms is the road to healing. It's the road that Athena now travels down, marrying the two concepts. Throw down those weapons, and I'll ensure you'll be spared. I don't want to hurt you, but trust me, I've come prepared. By using both, we can start to reach an understanding with the people around us. It might get ugly sometimes, but ultimately by showing that we don't want to fight, but won't surrender to your whims either, we show our enemies hopeful ruthlessness. Hold your ground, but extend the olive branch. This is why Epic's ending is so uplifting. Athena wonders if a new world is possible, one where everyone is able to be kind to each other, and Odie tells her, maybe, but not yet. Not here. In telling Athena that you may live forever so you can make it be, he's once again nodding to the audience. We're watching this story play out roughly 3,000 years in the future from when it took place, and we've made massive steps along this path that Athena now walks. We still have a long way to go, but we can make it. If my holding these flags annoys you, you can leave. Listen to others. Meet others with kindness and understanding, but don't let them squish you. Hold your ground and fight back. Greet the world with open arms, but back it up with a ruthless need to survive, and hold on to that hope that things will get better. You will go home. Even if you change, you're still ultimately the same person, and that's beautiful. If the people around you want you gone, fuck up. They can get to know you again if they change their mind, you know? They can fall in love with you again. It's up to them to extend that same open arms mentality back to you. Just like we see with Penelope and Odysseus at the very end of the show. After all, there is only one of you. Stay true to yourself, and things will get better. Greet the world with open arms, but back it up with ruthlessness, as ruthlessness is mercy unto ourselves. Both concepts can exist and should exist at the same time. Or maybe it's not that deep. What do I know? Anyway, bye. Holy shit, I did it. Oh my god. Okay, so I've wanted to make video essays since I was into like Bendy and the Ink Machine, and I wanted to make like theory videos. And I have always, like, I have so many scripts that I have that are done or like close to being done or are actively being worked on. But oh my god, this is the first one I've actually finished. I'm so fucking excited. Okay, so obviously this being my very first attempt at a video essay, there's gonna be a lot of errors, there's gonna be a lot of just general mess, general clutter. I mostly intended for this video to be background noise, but if you watched the visuals, yippee! I'm so sorry that the first half of this video was pixelated as hell. The storage was so full, and I didn't realize that the storage was that full that it was gonna affect my camera until after I was watching the footage, and I was just like, ah, fuck. Shout out to my cats who made a lot of noise during the production of this video. Shout out to my bestie Cassie for not knowing a damn thing about Epic, but just being really supportive. I think that's it. Yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.